We're due to start at about 7 o'clock, but I just want to do a few words before we get going. There's a good young picture of you there, Darren, on that lead in. I remember you like that as well. Right. Okay, so good evening and welcome to this Q&A session with Leif, Lindberg and Darren Cann. Some of you may already know me, but for those who do not, my name is Jack Smith and I'm the chairman of the Norfolk Referees Association. We have worked hard with Kershaw from Referee Abroad to put this session on this evening. And we have 100 registrations from 30 different countries. We've gone truly global this evening. Daniel will say a few words in just a moment. Before we go any further, and as we have some under 18s on this call, I need to ask you all to please be mindful of your language. And if you have anything inappropriate showing on your screen or background, can I ask you to change, remove, or switch your camera off? Session, please ensure that your microphone is switched to mute. We have had a large number of questions already submitted. I will be asking the person submitting the question to ask it to our guests. And don't forget, once you've mute yourself again, once you've asked your question. We aim to close the meeting at 9 p.m. GMT. And if we run out of questions before then, I will ask for more to be submitted to me via email. I will put a note on the message board. We have a large audience this evening with some notable names attending. Daniel will introduce him in a moment. As you're all aware, our guests this evening are Leif, Lindberg and Darren Cann. Leif, in addition to his line on the 2002 World Cup final, was also on the line in the Euro 2000 final. Darren, in addition to his line in the 2010 World Cup final, was also assistant referee on the 2006 FA Cup final and on the 2010 UEFA Champions League final. And I had the pleasure of running the line to Darren in a Contributor League match in the UK a few years ago, probably more than a few years ago now. Leif and Darren, welcome and thank you for giving up your time. I'll now ask Danielle to say a few words.
Thank you, Jack. Welcome everybody on behalf of Referee Abroad. Most of you have been to our tournaments, so I should be a familiar face, I suppose, in good or bad ways, I'm not sure, but I'm familiar at least. Thank you, Darren and Leif, for accepting the invitation. You're always very kind and we appreciate you taking the time to be here. As Jack said, there will be around 100 of us connected tonight. A few more will be coming in a few minutes from 30 different countries. That is an amazing number of countries and refereeing backgrounds, cultural backgrounds as well. The biggest countries represented are England with 34 referees and Italy with 22, followed by the United States with 7 and Canada with 6. And many others with lower numbers. Can I point out that we have people from America, so it's morning now, and people in New Zealand, which have woken up very early this morning to catch a glimpse of this session. Can I also say hello to some of the other guests that are with us tonight? David Redfern from the Northern Irish Football Association. David was also a FIFA assistant referee and is now on the FA committee. And also Jamel Ajmoudi from Algeria. He was a referee at the 2014 World Cup and refereed the third place final at the tournament. That's pretty much all I have to say. I don't want to steal time from our guests. So thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to a nice session and many interesting questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay, so the format, as I said, is that we have getting on for 30 questions already sent in, and I will be asking the lucky people who sent the questions in to actually ask the questions to our two guests. And the way I will ask these questions is in the order that I received them. So the first question tonight is to Darren Cann, and that's from Ralph Headley, who happens to be the Observer Coordinator for the area that I'm in. Ralph, over to you.
Thank you, Jack. And thank you, lads, for making this happen. I think it's absolutely tremendous. Darren, I'm going to put you on the spot. When your pitch side career eventually comes to an end, are you going to stay in football? And if so, in what capacity would you like to serve?
Okay, thanks for the question. Good to see you again, Ralph. I intend to carry on the Premier League for another year or two yet, so I'm not quite ready to hang the flag up. But when that time comes, and of course it will come at some point, I would like to stay in football. I do like the idea of coaching the top assistants in the world somewhere. I know that Leif has done that a lot over the last few years, so that's something that it interests me a great deal. But as long as I stay in football in some way, I'll be happy. I'm relaxed about it and not looking too far ahead. The next game is in a few days' time, and that's my focus.
That's great. Thank you. I mean, we can't lose your skill, your enthusiasm, and your desire to do well. We can't lose that from football. And if you are looking to help other assistant referees, I think that will be absolutely fantastic. We've got to build on people like yourselves. Thank you. Thanks,
Ralph. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. And Darren, what I will say, from what your reply was, I've never seen you anything other than relaxed. So I think that comes out in your performances. The next question is from myself, and that's to Leif. Leif, in the 2002 World Cup finals, you officiated in 5 matches altogether. In those matches, you worked with 4 different referees: Ruiz Oscar from Colombia, Frisk, your countryman twice, Felipe Ramos from Mexico, and of course, Pierluigi Collina, Italy. The other assistants in these games were from Vanuatu, Ecuador, Singapore, Slovakia, and England. How did you find the extra burden of having interpreters in your change room? And do you think this aided or detracted from your match preparation and performance?
Thank you very much, Jack, for this, in my opinion, very interesting question. So I hope everybody, other guys will enjoy this, because quite interesting answer I think I have here. As you probably know, this was last World Cup without trios. This was only maximum 1 referee and 1 assistant from the same country. And for sure, it was a reason for the change for the future. The 4 FIFA language was official, as you know, French, Spanish, German, English. And in UEFA, we have only 1 official language, which make it much easier for us, of course. The problem in my matches was, as you mentioned, you could see some Colombians guys only speaking Spanish, not 1 word English, and I couldn't speak 1 word Spanish. So of course it was a clash, of course. The problem was even bigger because you didn't mention the 4th official. So we had 4th official from many different countries. But in one way, FIFA was clever, because they gave 2 people with English and 2 with Spanish, for example. That was quite okay. But the problem was my first match in the World Cup here. My first World Cup match ever was with Ruiz Oscar. Spanish, 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 not 1 word English. And your first match in World Cup, so a little bit tricky maybe. The 4th official was on Argentina, also English, and the guy from Vanuatu, excellent English. So 2 English and 2 Spanish. The problem was the pre-match discussion. The only way we could do it was after the last training session. Oscar, he was showing us what we had to do on the field of play. So he was running all over the field and showed different positions and what he expected from us, what he didn't expect from us. So it was very unusual and very funny way to do it. Luckily, nothing special happened during the match, so it was no big test. But you can imagine if I had to tell yellow card number 10, Poland, for example, so which would have been absolutely impossible. So that was something very, very, very crazy. I can understand you don't need maybe 4 guys from the same country, but at least speak the same language. So FIFA was absolutely out in the blue. Another problem here was also the observers. I mean, no observers more or less could speak English. So we had no debriefing. I never saw any marks. I don't know, nothing. It was absolutely impossible to have a discussion before and after the match. So it was absolutely crazy. So yeah, that was a problem. So I had only one observer speaking English. It was Peter Mikkelsen. So we could even speak Scandinavian to each other in one match. But other part, I have absolutely no idea what the observers had any idea about my matches and performance. So it was absolutely crazy. Now it's much easier. So for sure.
Fantastic. Yeah, it gives us an insight and the way things have improved by having, you know, the officials from the same country now.
Of course.
Life a lot easier.
Unbelievable.
Jack, can I say something? It's incredible. What Leif just said, it's just incredible. You know, how things have changed in recent years. You know,
absolutely.
And I think the decision to put trios has improved the everything. You know, in the competition. I mean, it's incredible that you couldn't even communicate with your team. It's just for somebody like me who was born in '86 in particular, but even the guys who are connected who were born later, this is almost inconceivable. So it's really interesting to hear this.
Yep.
Thank you.
I agree. Yes. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Next question is from Glenn Sandel from the Norfolk RA. And that's directed to Darren. Glenn.
Hello, gents. Hello, Darren. Sorry that my camera's not working. Can I just congratulate Darren on an excellent career so far? But what we'd like to know is, can you just tell us how over the years have you kept yourself motivated, having already achieved, you know, Europe's and the world's top match? So after achieving them, what has motivated you on? Because your career has still remained top level.
Thanks, Glenn. It's nice to hear from you as well. Motivation for me just comes naturally. I just want to do the very best I can on every single game. An example of that was last season. I did a match on TV in the Premier League on the Saturday, and then I went to watch an under-16 match on the Sunday morning, and they didn't have a referee. The referee didn't turn up. So I just said I'd referee it for them. And obviously I didn't introduce myself. I was just, you know, somebody watching a match. And I promise you, I tried just as hard in that under-16 Sunday League game as I did for Southampton, Man City the previous day. So I think if you have that kind of attitude, and I've been lucky to learn from a lot of good people that have instilled that attitude in me, then I think, you know, motivation to keep doing your best every single game, because they're all important. That's for me the most important thing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn. Darren, did they find out after you'd finished refereeing your background?
No, they still don't know to this day, but I'm happy, I'm relaxed with that.
They might do after this. Thank you. The next question, I do apologise if my pronunciation is not so good. It's from Umberto Santolsi. I hope I got that right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Umberto. And the question is to both of the referees. So if you'd like to ask your question, we'll have Leif answer first.
All right. Hello. Well, nice to meet you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm from Venezuela, just in case, and I live in Dorset, Bournemouth. My question is for both. If you were in South America, in which country would you like to referee and why? Thank you.
Thank you. Leif, could you kick that one off, please?
Yes, I can start. I've only been in South America once. It was in Peru against Uruguay, won World Cup qualification. It was a fantastic experience. So of course I want to come back there one day, but if I have a second choice, maybe I would take Brazil because of the high profile players, the passion of the football, the stadiums, the history. So probably I would choose Brazil. I know it's a very demanding country to come to referee football in. I know that. My last 2 years I was working in Greece, and my boss was Vito Melo Pereira from Portugal, and he had been acting 6 months in Brazil as a chief of referees. So he told me exactly how hard it is, something similar to Greece, I can tell you, but it would be a challenge. So my first choice will be Brazil.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Yes, I'm very lucky that I've officiated in Brazil on a few occasions. So I would choose Argentina. And the reason is that one of my best friends in refereeing is a guy called Hernan Medana, who some of you may know. He was also an assistant referee in a World Cup final. He was in Russia 2018 with Nestor Pitana, and he was one of the assistant referees, and he's a good friend of mine. And I visited him a couple of years ago in Buenos Aires, and I love the country and I love the people. And I went to see the home of Boca Juniors and River Plate, and that is a game that I would love to referee, or at least be an assistant referee on that match, because I think the atmosphere would be incredible with the rivalry, with the derby. So for me, it would be Argentina.
Okay, Umberto, do you have a follow-up question?
No, that's it. It was one for both.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Okay, the next question is from Ladislav Angel. Angel? I again apologise for my pronunciation. Are you there? Hello?
Hello, I'm here.
Ah, hello. So you've got a couple of questions.
Yes, I have 2 questions wrote it in the email.
So, yep. So if you can deal with the first one, please.
Yes. Firstly, I need to say thanks for invitation. I really appreciate being here. So the first question is, did you ever think about to be not as the assistant referee, but in the group of the referees? And what was the reason when you are decided to be the assistant or the main referee?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I forgot to put someone's name down against that one. Leif, could you perhaps take that?
Yeah, I can at least start with that. Okay, I think it's more or less the same in all countries. You normally start as a referee, and then you continue until you see this is it maybe, and you can have a second option as a career as an assistant referee. This was the case for me. So I was refereeing many years, but one day someone told me, okay, this is maybe the limit for you. So if you want to continue, you have to change to assistant. So that was a very easy decision for me because I wanted to reach the highest level, and I understood it was not as a referee. So for me, it was easy decision to give assistant referee a chance to reach, which I think it was a good choice for me from my side.
Okay, thank you. Ladislav, do you want to come back on that one at all?
Sorry, I can't hear because it is stuck for me. The question, can you repeat again?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, did you hear Leif's answer? Did you hear Leif talk about your question?
Yes. I heard the answer of the Leif, and thank you very much for that.
Okay,
Pleasure.
you have a second question. If you'd like to put that to Darren, please.
Yes. The second question was if you have some habits that you need to do before each game, before the kickoff. If you are in the changing room, dressing room, like that.
Yes, I do, Ladislav. Yes, I always try and put my socks on before my boots. I find that's useful. I'm just kidding. The habit I do to get into the zone, to get into the mental place that I need to be, I always practice my signals before the match in front of the mirror. I've done it for 15 years probably, and it just helps me keep concentrated. And after I've done that a couple of times, I know I'm ready for the match. So that's one thing I do. And the other thing I do as an assistant referee is I always make sure that my referee goes out feeling confident, because for me, confidence is everything. Whether you're a referee or whether you're an assistant referee, I think we perform better when we feel confident. So if the referee is looking nervous, if it's a really big game, then I'll always have something up there to remind him about that excellent decision he gave last week or something like that, just so that his last memory also is a positive one, so that he feels good as he walks out as well. So those are the two things that I try and do on every game, just to prepare myself in the minutes before walking.
Fantastic. Thank you, Darren. Did you want to come back on that at all, Ladislav?
I think that's okay, Jack. You can go on with it.
Yeah, I think he's yeah, okay.
He's having some issues, I think.
Yes, I think you're right there, Daniel. Next question is again, it's for Darren, and that's from Dave Redfern. Good evening, Dave. If you'd like to ask your question to Darren. David.
Yes, sorry, Jack. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, here now. Darren, how you doing?
Good, thanks, Davey. How are you?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. Darren, just with the interpretation now for offside with VAR, you're actually waiting a lot longer before you signal. How did you find the adjustment going from before VAR to coming into VAR now?
Yeah, good question. It's certainly been difficult to have to delay the flag after running the line for 20, 25 years. And as soon as you see the offside player, the flag goes up. And now, of course, you've got to have a different mindset. So it has been a challenge for all of us, I think. I think when it's a very clear offside, when we're talking about several meters, then I think hopefully next year or the season after, we'll be able to flag those immediately, because I do think that when it's a tight offside decision, one of these crossover decisions, I can understand that we have to delay the flag just in case there's a goal scoring opportunity. But I think when it's several meters, I would like to be able to flag, if I'm honest. I think that would be beneficial. And that would also potentially save any clash with the goalkeeper and the forward as well. So I think from a player safety point of view, that would help as well.
Okay, thank you, Darren.
You supplementary to that at all, David?
No, that's okay, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. The next question is from Jamal Hamoudi. Jamal, are you there, please?
I'm not sure he's with us at the moment. So if you want to go to the next one, then
Yeah,
if
we'll
you
go to the
connect,
next question.
I'll let you know.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for that. Next one is from Harvey Newstead. I think he must have writer's cramp after his 4 questions. So
I'll put a few on there, but I'll ask 1 or 2. That's fine, Jack.
Okay. So if you could ask 1 question at a time. The first one, please.
Yeah. So the first question was, who's had the biggest impact on your career and why?
Okay. So can I go to Leif on that one first?
Yes, of course, I can name a lot of Swedish guys, but if I should name anyone, you know who it is. Of course, it have to be Anders Frisk, my main referee. I think we were together more than 40 international matches. Of course, he's my number 1. No doubt about that. My second is, of course, Bo Carlson, who was chairman of the referee committee and a member of the UEFA referee committee. So of course he supported me a lot and showed me the way, and he learned me a lot. So of course this is the 2 guys. And of course, if I want to say someone outside this Swedish bubble, I have to name David Elleray, who also have been fantastic man for me, one of my best friends. So yeah, in many ways. So this is my 3 guys.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Leif. Darren.
Yes, there's been lots of people, Harvey, in truth, who have helped me, and literally hundreds. Every assessor, every referee, every assistant referee I've worked with, they've all helped me over the last 30 years in some way. And I'm grateful to every single one of them. There are a few names that I would like to pick out. From Norfolk FA, Richard King and Jack Smith. Thank you, Jack. You're the 2 people that encouraged me to take up the whistle in the first place. So I wouldn't be here without you 2 guys. So I'll always be grateful to you both. So thank you for that. Also, English assistant referees, Phil Sharp, who Leif worked with on the 2002 World Cup final. Him and Glenn Turner were 2 assistant referees I learned so much from. I used to watch them every game on TV and study what they did. I wanted to be like them. So for me, they were the 2 role models, as well as other people that I look towards. And then there's probably three other people that have really helped me a lot. My first is my first coach on the Premier League, a guy called Paul Rigier. He gave me the confidence to perform. And never stopped believing in me. And as I mentioned earlier, confidence is so important. So he really instilled that in me and was a great supporter. So I'll always be grateful to him. My mentor is a guy called Trevor Pollard, who some of you may know. He was an excellent assistant referee in England in his own right. But again, he's someone who I've learned so much from. And finally, similar to Leif, really, my main referee was Howard Webb for 10 years. I'm just so lucky that my career coincided in the same years as his, because as assistant referees, we all need a referee. I was just lucky that I had a world-class referee.
Yep. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Darren. Again, another question from Harvey.
Yeah, I'll ask 1 more, Jack. That's fine. Go with what was the biggest challenge you've faced in your career and how did you overcome it?
Leif, please.
Yes.
He's gone to question 12.
Yes, 12. Yes, sure. Of course, the biggest challenge, the easy answer is, of course, the two finals I received. And why is this the most challenge? Yes, because if you reach the final, hopefully it's because you deserve it. But if the final don't go very well, then everything is destroyed, and then you will be remembered not as a final referee, you will be remembered as a loser. So the two finals is absolutely the most demanding and challenging, because it can, the performance can destroy everything. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. Darren.
Yeah, similar really. I mean, the World Cup final is always going to be the pinnacle and probably the biggest challenge anyone would face. But I think on a long-term basis, probably the biggest challenge I've faced is what we're all facing now with the pandemic. It's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before. And I have to be honest, I was really scared in the first few months. I suffer with asthma, severely with asthma, with breathing difficulties. And I was really scared even to referee anymore. But I have to say, Mike Riley and PGMOL have been absolutely fantastic. I can't praise them enough. They've looked after us at every step of the way. They've kept us informed. They've said, if you don't want to referee for a few months, that's fine. We'll leave your place open. There is no pressure to referee at all. Or if you want to just referee teams that are close enough to your home, so you don't have to stay in hotels, that kind of thing, then they've said that's available as well. So really, I can't thank them enough. And also the professionalism that they've shown, the leadership that they've shown has really helped me get through the last year. And hopefully now, all of us in the world, we can, in the next few months, start to get back to some kind of normality again. So for me, that's been the biggest challenge this last year.
Thank you, Darren.
Jack, can I suggest if Harvey had another question, you can definitely ask it.
Harvey, I would like you to ask your other two questions, please.
Okay, no problem.
Because we have got a running order here.
No worries, I didn't know about that. That's fine. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
So, Darren, if you could answer that one to start with, please.
Yeah, it's very simple and very quick. The best piece of advice I've been given was from my dad, from my father. And it was just simply always give 100% and never give up. And that's it.
Fantastic, thank you. And Leif, what would you like to answer that one as well?
Yes, of course. And I will also give a very quick answer because my answer is, I can't remember who said so, but someone told me you are not good enough as referees. You have to change to be an assistant, and that's changed everything for me. So that was absolutely my best advice.
Yes. Yes, I had a player say that to me once as well, but there we go. Thank you. And Harvey, your final question, which is number on your sheets, guys.
So what strategies do you use to deal with pressure?
So Leif, if you'd like to start on that one, please.
Yes, of course. This could be a very long story, of course. With experience and confidence and so on. I think I will highlight one thing here, and that's fitness. Normally, the best way to deal with pressure and mental things is to be as fit as possible. If you know you are the fittest guy on the field of play, then in principle, you don't have any problem. So the easiest way to practice mental training is practice fitness. So a good fitness is probably the best way to deal with pressure.
Thank you very much, Leif. Okay, do you have any supplementaries on your questions, Harvey?
No.
Can I just come in as well, Jack? Can I answer that one as well on pressure, please?
Sorry, Darren, I thought I'd ask you that.
No, that's okay. All I was going to say is there is a lot of pressure on all of our games, whatever level we officiate at, and certainly at Premier League level and Champions League and World Cup level. So the way I deal with pressure, Harvey, is to actually compartmentalize it. So actually, in life, what is pressure? To me, pressure is having enough money to put food on the table for your children, or a firefighter going into a burning building who has just 1 minute to rescue a family, or the doctors and nurses in the pandemic, for example. For me, that's pressure. And so when I consider in the perspective, pressure in football minimises for me, and it helps me sort of deal with those situations on the pitch, because in the grand scheme of life, there are more pressurised things. So when I think about those, it lessens the pressure actually on me during the match.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Darren, very much for that. And there's a lot of truth in that, very much so. Okay, so sorry, Harvey, did you want to come back on any of those answers?
No, thanks, Jack. Thanks you both for giving up your time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now got 5 questions from Christian Caroline. Christian, if you're there, would you like to ask your first question, please?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Thank you
good evening.
for the invitation. Hello, Jack. Hello, Darren. Hello, Leif. I have 5 questions to you, to both Darren and Leif, and I want to know, how is to referee in a team with Howard Webb and with Pierluigi Collina?
Okay, so Leif, would you like to answer that first, please?
Yes, I can start. Yes, it's very strange. I have been together with Collina in one match, and that's a World Cup final. This is the only one I've been practiced with him, so a little bit weird maybe, but for sure, in general, if you are a referee of a World Cup final, you are maybe a little bit ahead of your colleagues, and this is a good example with Pierluigi Collina, because he was extremely well prepared with the tactics, with the teams, with everything, and everybody was thinking he was maybe a little bit too much. So did I, and I remember the pre-match discussion, and me and Philip Schaaf, we was looking at each other and said, come on, what is this? Corner kicks, positions, blah, blah, blah. We didn't understood nothing. But now this is the way everybody works. So he was 10 years ahead, everybody else, and that's why he is where he is now and where he was in Korea, Japan. So that was very unusual and fantastic experience. I was very lucky to be with him.
Thank you. Thank you, Leif. Darren.
Yeah, very similar, really. I think we're both blessed that we were born in the right years, really, because Pierluigi was the best referee in 2002, best referee in the world, and in my opinion, Howard Webb was the best referee in the world in 2010. So we're very lucky to have been able to work with 2 of the best referees in world history. Working with Howard is a little bit different than Leif, because I worked with Howard more than 200 times on matches, and he's still one of my best friends to this day. What I would say is that if you were building a robot of a referee, I think you would choose Howard Webb as the prototype, really. His build, his size, his stature, the way he looks. For me, he looked like a footballer in a referee's kit. And so he had he probably had an advantage over some referees just by the way he looked. But of course, there's lots of skill, lots of intelligence as well. And reading the game was so important, as long as communication as well. So for me, he was the perfect referee, and I was very lucky to work with him for 10 years.
Yeah, fantastic, Darren. If you are building a robot, the only other thing I would add into that would be Collina's stare.
Yes, I would agree. Yes.
Yeah.
I must say, Jack, that from that famous video that became viral online, Howard was a pretty good player as well.
No, not so much.
Did you want to come back on that at all, Christian? Or do you want to go on to your next question?
I go to the next question.
Okay, then.
I have 4 more. So the next question is, how is to referee a World Cup final?
Okay, so Darren, we'll start with you on that one, please.
Well, as Leif said earlier, it is the pinnacle of your career. Whether you're a player or a referee or an assistant referee, it is a dream and it's something that I never thought that I'd be lucky enough to do. The ambition was always there, but there are so many things that have to fit into place, and so a lot of luck is involved, really. But yeah, it's something that I'll never ever forget. It's interesting because you don't actually remember that much of the game itself because you are so concentrated, particularly for an assistant referee, and of course you're watching the sort of line of defence all the time, and so you're not really watching the game. So the actual in 2010, the game was on the 11th of July 2010, but in fact the special moment for me, Christian, is the 8th of July, because the 8th of July was the day that the people were announced to do the World Cup final. And it's a little bit like if you think of any film awards like the Oscars or something like that, it's not the moment when you're up on stage that is special. I think the moment is when your name is read out as being the winner or the one that is going to officiate the final. So for me, the 8th of July at 6 minutes past 6, I'll never forget it, is the most special minute of my life. The final was special as well, of course, but it was a dream achieved, really. So I'm very humbled and very fortunate to have done that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. Darren. Leif.
Yes, more or less I can copy what Darren said, because this is exactly the same experience for me. The final, of course, was fantastic, but I more or less can't remember anything from it. I think we have DVDs so we can see what happened, because you were so focused. So yeah, in principle, you can't remember anything from that. And also the appointments was for me number one. I can't remember the date or the time as Darren can. I absolutely no idea, but for sure the appointment is number one for me. And for me, it was a little bit special because in one way, I could expect something nice because I had a Euro final 2 years before. So it was not shocking, but on the other hand, my referee, Frisk, he had to go home after a match who didn't so well for him, and I was together with him in that match. And he had to go home, and I stayed. So that was, of course, a big surprise for me. So, yeah, so after that appointment, after this story, this for sure is the highlight of the career. So this is the highlight, absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you, Leif. Supplementary on that at all, Christian?
I have 3 more questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Did you want to come back on those answers at all?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Did you want to make any comments on the answers you just had?
No, it's enough.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so you'd like to ask your next question, please?
So the third question is, what it takes to become one of the best assistant referee in history?
Leif, could you start on that one, please?
Yes, I can repeat something Darren said before, that in this case, you also need a lot of luck, because you need a referee who is not only good enough, he also have to enjoy you. So a good referee from your country and a guy who wants you on the line, because I mean, the match is 2 hours, but normally a normal trip abroad is 3 days. So it's not only what you're doing on the field of play. You have to be friends outside the field of play. That's maybe even more important. Apart from that, of course, fitness. You have to be top. You have to feel very, very confident about that. And nowadays, it's not enough to be a sportsman. Now you have to look like a sportsman. It was not always the case in my time, but it's much more difficult nowadays. And you have to be brave. This is another word I want to highlight, because so many decisions from your side is so important, not only for you, it's important for the team. So you have to be brave and sometimes not too brave. And the last one, I think, is very important to reach the highest level is the teamwork. You're winning like a team and you're losing like a team. And yeah, so if you're ready to die for your referee, that's a good thing to start with.
Thank you, Leif. Darren.
I have the same things: courage, teamwork, ready to run through a brick wall for your referee, or ready to die for your referee. So the same characteristics. I think for younger officials, if you're lucky enough to have your games filmed, then if it's a youth game, for example, or if it's a cup final, try and get hold of a copy of the film and watch the game back, because that's the way you learn from the mistakes. So, for example, when I was younger, I thought I flagged perfectly, and then I saw a game back and my flag was sort of turned to the side, and I never realised it never got mentioned before. So you learn from those kind of things. But I think practice, lots of experience. And because we've not been, all of us haven't been refereeing for the last few months, just watch lots of games on TV. So even now, we have 10 matches every week from the Premier League on English television. I watch all of them, or maybe I'm on one of the games, so I watch 9 more. And then I try and judge the offsides in those games as well. So I'm always getting more and more experience, even if I'm not actually physically on the line. I'm watching hundreds and hundreds of matches in a year and making those decisions. And of course, on television, you get to see the replay and you can see if you're correct or not. So that builds confidence as well.
Thank you, Darren. And Christian, I think you'd like to ask your next question, please.
So the fourth question is, what is the most iconic memory you had as an assistant referee?
Okay, so Leif, would you like to start on that one, please?
Yes, for me it's very easy, because I was lucky to have the Euro final 2 years before the World Cup final. And of course, the World Cup final is absolutely unbelievable. But I think your first final is the iconic memory. So I have to highlight my Euro final, and especially in this case, it was together with my referee, Anders Frisk. So that was a little bit special.
Thank you. And Darren?
Yeah, similar really. Mine would be the Champions League final, also in 2010. It was a crazy 50 days to do both finals in the same summer. So wonderful memories. Also that summer, some of you may remember, we had a volcanic eruption in Iceland, I think, and we had a big ash cloud in the sky, and the ash was still there a few days before the Champions League final, and we'd been told that we had the final, and then Howard phoned me almost in tears saying we may not get the final now because there were no flights from the UK to Spain. So we had an anxious day or two wondering if we would even get there, or maybe we go by train for 2 days or something, but we were told no, you need to fly, and if the ash clears, then you can go. If not, we need to appoint another team. So it was an anxious wait, but thankfully there was a gap in the clouds, and up we went, and we got to Madrid, and we were lucky enough to have our Champions League final in the Bernabeu, one of the iconic stadiums in the world. And the game went perfectly. Howard refereed magnificently. So it was a scary start, but we were very glad, and those are very, very special memories.
Fantastic, thank you. I'll just, you talking about it was a scary moment, and I'm going to ask a supplementary to both of you. Have you ever been scared on a foreign trip? I know Howard did receive death threats. Darren, I know I sprung this one on you, but would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I'll go first then. What you're referring to there, Jack, was 2008. It was the European Championships, and Howard did receive death threats. And we checked into a lovely hotel in Salzburg for our next game. and the chief of police met us on the tarmac and said, "Mr. Webb, we will not let them kill you here." We then went to the hotel, and usually, and Leif will know this, usually the referee gets the best hotel room and the two assistants get maybe a smaller hotel room. I was lucky enough to have a really luxurious hotel room. It was almost the size of my house, and it was just absolutely amazing, the size of this room. And I said to the liaison officer, "I'm sure this is not supposed to be my room. This must be Mr. Webb's room." And he said, "Well, yes, this was Mr. Webb's room, but you'll see all the windows, all the open windows and all the rooftops outside. We're worried that they might try and kill him with a rifle, so we've given you the room instead." So yeah, that was a little bit scary. The curtains stayed shut on that trip pretty much all the time, I think.
Thank you, Darren. Leif, did you have any scary moments like that at all?
Yeah, no, maybe not the same, but my worst case, I think it was qualification for World Cup between Czech Republic and Belgium, and it was a knockout match, the last one, and the result gave Belgium, the away team, the ticket, and it was not so very popular in Prague. So normally we have police escorts back home to the hotel, but this time we needed a military escort. So that was a little bit scary, a lot of guns and weapons. So a little bit special, but it's okay. Normally it's more against the referee, not against the assistant, but still you are in the team, so you are involved a little bit.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for that. Christian, you've got a final question. Would you like to ask that, please, of the guys?
Yeah, my final question was, what was your toughest game you had as an assistant referee in your entire career?
Leif, would you like to start on that one, please?
Yes. Of course, I have been very lucky because the two toughest matches in my career were the two matches before the finals. So in Euro 2000, I had a round of 16. We had a match, me and Frisk. France, Holland was a very, very demanding match with many difficult situation, which maybe gave us the final. The same in the World Cup 2002, in the last group stage, Spain, Republic of Ireland, very tough match, which ended up with Villaleona from Spain. He refused to continue in FIFA's referee committee as a protest because bad refereeing. But I think we did well, but Anders had to go home. But my performance was maybe the best I've done ever, and that's probably gave me the final 2002.
Fantastic, thank you. Darren.
Yeah, mine was one of my first Champions League games in Real Madrid against Schalke from Germany, and it was just a really tough game for offsides. I had the Real Madrid attack in the first half. In fact, Phil Sharp was on the other touchline. I think he was pleased that I was on that side of the pitch for the first half because it was just attack after attack after attack. And my head was spinning at half time. I couldn't believe how many close decisions there were. And as I always do for every game, I watched the game back the next day to look at my mistakes, to look to see where I can improve. And I thought, well, I'll count how many offside judgments, how many close decisions there were in the first half. And there were 43 close offside decisions just in one half of the game. So that's the hardest 45 minutes of my career so far.
Wow, that takes some doing. That's literally 1 minute. So a lot of concentration on that.
Indeed.
Okay, Christian, did you have any supplementary questions you'd like to ask before we move on?
Oh, I'm ready. I want to thank you very much, Darren, Leif, and also to Jack. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christian. You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question we have is from Constantine Bonef. Constantine, are you there?
Yeah, good evening.
Hello
Just
there.
a second, turn on my camera. Good evening to everyone, and good morning to some else of my colleagues. So we pretty much covered the most of the questions I would like to ask. So I'll just start with my third question. It's directed to both of you. It's like, we're like in the middle of pandemic, and one of the most like critical and important things to us referees is how we do our workouts and keep up to shape and in top form. Would you like to give us like a bit of advice for us how to train and how to keep us in this like really strange times?
Okay, so Darren.
Yes, so if I understand the question rightly, you're asking about how to keep fit, how to keep fit during the pandemic. Is that correct?
Yeah, mostly yes.
Yeah, and it's difficult for all of us. In the UK, we've not had the gym open for many months now, and some of the grass for the where I usually train is about this high now, so it's very difficult to train on that as well. The important thing is to keep active every day and to try and find some ground that you can run on. It's not ideal to run on the pavement, on the roads, but we're very lucky that we have a sports scientist who produces a program and they give us an alternative so that if we can't get outside for any of those reasons, then we can still do a high intensity session inside, or a strength and conditioning session, that kind of thing. So we're very lucky that we get programs sent to us. But I think for other referees who aren't lucky enough to have a sports scientist attached, then I think it's just a case of getting out and even going for walks or just jogging, maybe do a 5K run or something like that, but just staying active until we can actually get back onto the pitch. But the most important thing is that you do something, both for your physical welfare and also your mental welfare.
I forgot to mention that I'm from Bulgaria. Here is like a bit better than England and the United Kingdom. Here we like had our fitness, the gyms, and etc. Open for like a week or two. Then it's closed again for a month. Then the same thing, it just repeats itself every month. So yeah, it's a bit easier here, but still, like you said, some of the referees have like specialists that do their program and help them. As for us in Bulgaria, we don't have that, but I would not like to mention our unity and the work we do. We try our best. Yeah, mostly it is that. Should I go to the next question right now?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just bear with me. There's one or two political messages going up on the chat. I'm just trying to remove them. Please do not put these on the post. So I will delete those. Sorry, Constantine, do you have another question you'd like, a supplementary you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I have one more question, but
Please
I
do.
think that earlier Mr. Cann covered the most of it. It was like mostly for the new assistant referees, and including me, I have that problem like before the games when I have to remember really fast, like when the ball goes out for a throw-in, which way should we direct the flag? Should we raise like for the left or the right side? And should be like made decision. We should make it really fast. And do you have some kind of trick for it to make it easier? You mentioned, Mr. Cann mentioned earlier that he stands in front of a mirror and trains and prepares for it, for his movements and his reflexes. But still, if you have anything to say, a piece of advice.
Yes, I can just add something to that, Jack. It's
Yeah.
a very good question, because I used to suffer from the same thing. The ball would go out for a throw in, and I couldn't remember which way the blue team or which way the red team were moving. So I do something very simple now. Before the kickoff, if, let's say the red team is attacking in my half. So this hand here is the red team, and this hand here is the blue team. So any decision I'm going to give to the red team, a throw in, for example, then it's going to be my right hand. But if it's a free kick, it's still the red team is here, and the blue team, if I give them a defensive free kick or I give the blue team a throw in, then I'm going to be using this hand. So in my head, I have a red hand and a blue hand, and that way, if it's a red ball, then I know I'm going to use this hand. Blue ball, I'm going to use this hand. So that's how I remember. But of course, remember at half time, you need to swap it over, because in the first minute of the second half, it's very easy to forget.
Yes.
Thank you, Darren. Yeah, what about you, Leif? How did you remember?
Yeah, I think I still can remember. I had some similar tactic. I always was talking to myself. I didn't have two colors. I had only one color. So I was talking to myself, blue defender, blue defender, blue defender all the time. And in my time, when we didn't have any communication system, it was even easier, because then you could speak out loudly. With the communication system, you maybe have to take a little bit care. But blue defender, and of course, second half, then you have to change. And everybody knows the first minutes in second half. This is a minute with most mistakes from assistants regarding throw-ins and corner kick and so on. So you have to be mentally ready for second half.
Lovely.
Thanks a lot.
So,
Thank you.
have you got any supplementaries on that, Constantine?
No, actually, this man covered the most bit. Thank you very much.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you for your questions. We now got 3 questions from Rob Atkin.
Jack, Robert to leave us because he had a urgent work meeting, but
Okay.
he asked, he asked me to ask the questions on his behalf.
Please, if you would.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, just let me just get them. So the first question was, if you know you've made an error in a game, how do you stay concentrated for the remainder of the match? That was the first question.
So if we could ask Darren to reply to that one.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. This is something that I've always found very difficult, to be honest, to get over a mistake mentally and move on to the next decision. And in fact, a Premier League assistant referee asked me the very same question a few years ago. And because the assistant said to me that when they make an error, their match just goes to pieces. They make lots of errors because they're dwelling on that situation. So it may not work for everybody, but what I do personally is rather than have the pressure of going out thinking I can't afford to make a mistake, because who can work under that pressure? If you think one mistake is going to ruin the game, you can't function like that. So for me, I just tell myself, I give myself 3 lives, I suppose. I tell myself I'm going to make 3 mistakes. And then that way, if I do make a mistake, instead of it being a negative thought, actually I have a positive thought because I've still got 2 more lives left. So that way I can easily move on from that mistake and I'm still in credit, if that makes sense. So that's something that's worked for me. I suppose what happens when you get to 3 mistakes, you might start getting a bit worried, but maybe give yourself 5 mistakes to start with. But yeah, I think if you give yourself 3 errors, then if you make 1 mistake, it's not a problem because you've still got two more in hand.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Can can we ask Leif's
Yeah, I was going to
opinion
say,
on this?
yeah, Leif, how did you manage if you made an error?
The easiest way is not to make any error. This is, of course, the best answer, maybe. But the question is an error. How do you know it was an error? How can you know? Do you trust the players? Do you trust the spectators? Or how do you know it's an error? You don't know. Someone told you, but you can't trust them. Probably you find out it was an error in halftime or after the match, and then it's too late. So the best way is to not find out it was an error, because you can't trust players. Even if you think they're your friends, it comes to an end when they do everything to kill you. So don't listen too much, and don't take out an error in advance. Maybe you was correct, even if 50,000 think you was an idiot. Maybe you was the only one who saw something. So don't believe everything you see or listen to.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's excellent advice for everybody. Don't trust anyone until you see it yourself with your own eyes.
And don't open your mobile phone in halftime. That's a second ID.
Yeah, because that can affect your performance in the second half, of course. So,
of course, it will. It will.
Yeah. Okay, so the second question from Rob was, let me just get it again. So the second question was, do you prefer, well, it was already answered, but do you prefer games with or without VAR? I'm not.
I guess. It's interesting, isn't it? Because VAR has changed football as we all know it. For over 150 years, we've had no VAR, and now we have it in some competitions, and it will get some getting used to, I think, because, as I say, we've all grown up with football without the video assistant referee, and now we have to all change our mindset. So I think it will take some time for everyone to get used to it, but clearly there are some benefits. It's not perfect at the moment. I don't think anyone is saying it's perfect at the moment, but there clearly are some benefits. So, for example, Diego Maradona's hand of God goal in the World Cup for Argentina against England, I have to mention that. But great player that he was, of course. But those kind of goals will no longer be given because we have the video system. So at least justice will be done, and the very clear mistakes or the unseen errors will never happen again, hopefully. So there are lots of positives, but I think it'll just take a little bit of time for everyone to get used to them.
Thank you, Darren.
I fully agree with what you said. You know, there, like in every revolution in football, from the laws of the game to the introduction of VAR now, you know, people will see the pros, some other people will see the cons, you know, different opinions, but in the end, it's for the advance of the game. So I'm sure a couple of years down the line, people will see the introduction of VAR as a big progress for the sport we love. So yes. Yeah. At the beginning, it's always complicated to get adjusted to it, just like when we changed the handball law quite a few times in the past few years. But when we changed the offside law, you know, and it's always been challenging at first, and then things we got used to it. So yes, there was a last question from Rob, which has been kind of answered already, but I will just twitch it a little bit so it becomes a little different. So other than your main referee, in your case, Darren Webb, and in Leif's case, Anders Frisk, other than that, who was your favorite referee to work with? You know, I mean, by favorite, he means like the one you worked the most with and really got along with, you know, this kind of things.
Leif, would you like to start on that one, please?
Yes, please. Of course, I have to say Frisk. Of course, if you have been together in I think 41 international matches and maybe 200 domestic matches. Of course, I have to tell him he was so extremely important for my career. So, but I also like him very much as a person. I learned a lot from him on the field of play, but also out of the pitch. The way he treating his life, it was fantastic because we are absolutely the opposite. But I learned many good things from him and changed also a little bit of my style outside thanks to him. So without any doubt, Frisk for me.
Thank you. You're okay there, Daniel?
Yes, there is a Said from Italy that is he would like to ask a question now, if possible, Jack.
Yep. Okay.
He just
Said,
messaged me.
if you'd like to go ahead, please.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Just wanted to ask, what was the most hilarious moment you remember when you lived?
Thank you, Leif. If you'd like to answer that one.
Yes, as I said before, your most iconic moment is outside the field of play when appointments was arrived. Of absolutely, of course. Otherwise, on the field of play is probably in the World Cup final when Pierluigi Collina didn't accept my raised flag for a free kick, so he asked me to please take it down and continue. And this everybody will try to remember about this. So I think this is a little bit funny, but okay story. So I still love him. So
good, Darren.
Was it the most hilarious moment? Was that the question?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very lucky to work with a referee now in England called Mike Dean, and he very often will. Unfortunately, I can't mention some of the things on this session, but he'll always come out with a joke, or even when the ball has gone out for a throw in, he'll just say something funny, and he'll often make us laugh and make the players laugh as well. So I actually enjoy working with him. So although Howard Webb would be my main referee that I enjoyed working with the most, I would say Mike Dean, but I can't actually repeat some of the stories in this session, unfortunately. But trust me, he's a very funny man, and yeah, he would probably be the funniest Premier League referee in terms of his jokes, I would say.
Can I say, Darren, I had the pleasure of meeting Mike during a dinner at Manchester FA once, and when he took the stage, I must say that he was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. The way he engaged with the crowd and everything, the stories he said. So is definitely an asset to the Premier League and the entire refereeing community. So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thank you.
And the other one who was with him and he was just as good was John Moss. He's
very funny as well. Yeah,
yeah,
they've both got really good senses of humour. So yeah, hopefully we'll have those for another few years yet.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But, if I can, Darren. Yeah.
Yes,
do you think that's a strategy to keep up the team, to keep them active, etc., or just a normal from Mike Dean? I mean,
so, a strategy. What sort of making us laugh? Is that a strategy? Yep. Yeah, I think it is with him. Yes, because I don't think you can change him because he's just a naturally funny man, and that helps him concentrate in those moments where the ball goes out. I think he has to say something, and it might be a conversation with a player, but of course because we have the earpiece we can hear as well, so it just keeps him concentrated and focused, I think. But then of course as soon as the ball comes back in, then he's sort of onto the game again. But I think it is a strategy to keep him involved in the game. Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Said, anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And just to everybody, we are now accepting more questions. So this will be a bit of a blind for both Darren and Leif. So I have put a post out on the message board. If you've got questions, I've had a few in now.
I've got a few myself, Jack.
Okay, well,
that
that's fine.
Came in from some referees.
Okay, I'll come to you in a moment, Daniel, because what I've got now is the last one, which Darren and Leif were aware of. Certainly, this is aimed at Darren, and that's from Dave Duffett. Dave, good to see you again. Would you like to ask your question to Darren, please?
Yeah. Good evening, Darren.
Evening, Dave.
My question was originally answered on the very first one. So if I could change it slightly, we have in this country match observers and evaluators on FA Cups and your programs. Which would you prefer?
I personally would prefer coaches, if I'm totally honest, Dave. I think coaching a referee is the way forward, if I'm totally honest. I think part of an assessor's role is, of course, to develop the referee. But as I said, one of my earlier answers, for me, building that referee up, giving him confidence is so important, because certainly on Premier League games, you'll have a game where maybe the crowd, when we have crowds, might criticise you, you might have the manager criticise you or players criticise you. And then the next evening, match of the day, might criticise you, and then the newspapers the following day. And so it goes on and on and on. So I think within refereeing, it's so important, whether you're evaluating, whether you're assessing, or whether you're coaching, to actually really take time to point out the things that a referee does well. And I'm sure most assessors and evaluators already do that. But that's what I would say. I think coaching a referee, you get more out of that, having that close-knit relationship. But other than that, I think as long as it's done in the right manner and done in a positive way, then I'm happy with whether it's coaching, evaluating, or assessing. But as I say, I prefer to be coached rather than to told where I've gone wrong, because generally you know yourself when you've made a mistake or when you've done something wrong. So for me, I would accentuate the positives and like that coaching role a bit more.
Thank you. Is Leif, could I ask you the same question? Are you used to that system, or have been in the past?
Yeah, we are not using the same system. We have observers like UEFA, and we have in Sweden we have only observers. But of course, the observer have to be a coach. He have to be a coach. I mean, give a mark. It's not very difficult. But the coaching, what have you learned from this match? What can be better next time? Which was your strong point? This is most important. That's why you have an observer. But the problem is, I think in Sweden and most countries, most observers know nothing about assistants. This is the problem for assistants. They know a little bit about the fourth official maybe, but assistants, okay, looking good, blah, blah, blah. So this is a problem for us. But of course, a coaching observer with coaching point, this is something absolutely best for everybody.
If I may, Jack, to both of you, what have you left that your ambitions want to be in the future? What ambitions have you got left in the game?
I'll take this one first. As I said earlier, I'm still going to be an assistant referee on the Premier League next year. My ambition, although I don't always achieve it, but my ambition is to always try and finish as the #1 assistant in our merit table, because I think if you aim for 10th place or 15th place, then you might achieve it or you might not. But if you aim high, then you might not make it, but I think you give yourself the best chance of achieving it. So I try and finish at #1 every year. And for next season, my immediate ambition, I'm very close to 500 Premier League appearances as an assistant referee. So hopefully, God willing, next season, I'll be able to reach 500 Premier League appearances. So that's my immediate ambition for next season.
Leif?
Yeah, of course. My career on the pitch stopped many years ago because of age limit, of course. And now my last 2 years was in Greece, working the ref committee in Greece. And before that, I was 2 years in Turkey as an assistant referee coach. So I don't know if I can find another goal, but we will see. I'm willing to listen, but for the moment, I don't know exactly what I could achieve. But I'm happy what I have done.
The last one to Darren, if I may. Just recently, we saw you on a quiz program called Pointless. Have you any ambitions to do others?
Maybe not for a few years, but I do like a quiz, and that was good fun. And yeah, maybe in a few years' time, but I've got no immediate ambitions to go on the chase or anything else like that at the moment. So yeah, I think that was just a one-off. But yeah, we had a thoroughly good day. So yeah, a bit of fun, but no, I'll give it a few years rest, I think.
The very first time I met you, Darren, was when I was supposed to observe you at Woodbridge, and you called the game off 30 minutes before the game because of fog. I don't know whether it was the fog or the observer.
Yeah, I can exclusively reveal it was because you were assessing me. No, it wasn't. No. It was the fog.
Jack, thank you very much for the invite. It's been a splendid evening, and I look forward to the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Thank you. Right, we've now come to the point where
Jack, I've got a few questions on waiting. So if you don't have any on your side, I'll ask the.
No, I'm just printing them off. That you, Daniel, please go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. So I got a few questions from some of my guys who are probably afraid of asking. So they asked me to do that. So the first one is about the difference between, of course, at the top of the game, you have the assistance of technology and everything, but the question was, is there a big difference between refereeing with headphones and buzzer flags and not? And what's best, especially for if a young, nowadays, younger referees get offered the possibility of doing that on tournaments or cup finals, do you think they should stick to the old system, so no assistive technology, or it's better with technology, even for the younger guys, and the difference between the two ways of refereeing, of course? If you want to, I don't know who wants to go first.
Okay, so Darren, would you like to go first on that one, please?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a good idea for them to get practice with the buzzer flags and with a headset, but maybe not for a final if they've not used those before. I think the time to experiment is not when it's one of the biggest games that you're likely to do in the season. So I would certainly practice with it. There are lots of benefits, particularly with the buzzer flags. I mean, they're quite common in a lot of countries now. And I can remember several times flagging for a throw-in or flagging for a free kick, or even giving a substitute signal with the flag and the referee not seeing me for 40 seconds, 50 seconds. So just a little buzz on the flag was perfect. So I think that can be used quite easily in a final. But I think with the headset, clearly there are obvious benefits, but I wouldn't recommend them trying it out on an important game. But once you get used to the headset, it's so much easier as well. And in fact, I will tell you a little story that I've never told before. In the World Cup in 2014, our communication system went down in one of our matches, and it was like being back on a Sunday morning game again. We had no buzzers, the buzzer flags failed, and the communication set failed, and we just had to use the eyes and the ears and do exactly what we did when we learned to referee all those years ago. So every time the ball was played forward, Howard would look across to the assistant referee to see if the flag was going up. And that was a very frantic 20 minutes without any communication at all, because you get so used to the system and just talking, and even simple things like this is going to be a blue throw as the ball goes out. And so that you know that when you flag, the referee is going to go the same way as you. So once you have the equipment and it fails, then you're in a state of shock almost. So that happened actually at the World Cup in 2014, which wasn't ideal. But I would say get some practice with it, and then you'll get the benefits from those forms of technology.
Thank you. Leif.
Yes, I was only in the old school without communication system. I never tried it. But of course, before you start with beep flags and com systems, you have to get used without. You have to learn the basic things. And even if you are used to it, you have both beep flags and the communication systems. So why not practice sometimes without, maybe for some friendly match? So even if you're used to it, you have it 99% of your matches, maybe 1 or 2 matches during a season. Try like Darren did, but maybe not a World Cup match, maybe a friendly local match. But just try it to remember eye contact and the basic things.
I must say, I've never been to the top of the game myself, of course. But when I go out observing young referees, and I see young referees getting used to technology, sometimes the risk is that they don't do the basics well, because they get so much used to it that then they don't keep eye contact with the referees, they don't keep communication with them. So I'm fully in favor of technology, but only if you don't you keep doing the basics right. I mean, even if you have the microphone or you have the buzzer flag, still keep eye contact with the referee. And that's what I tell my referees when I see them not looking the AR way because they are just relying on their buzz.
Yeah, I agree with you both, and what Leif said is absolutely right. You need to have the basics first, and then you can use the technology, but never lose the basic skills, because you never know when you might need them again.
No, you're right there, Darren, and certainly
it can even happen in a World Cup, apparently. So yeah, so
it can. Yeah.
Great.
I know, Darren, that when I first started refereeing, you were taught how to make the flag crack. When you were flagging for an offside. Not that you'd be able to hear that in Bernabeu or somewhere like that, but certainly going back to basics is always good to fall back on. Daniel, you got some more questions?
I've got one more, yes, and then
okay.
I believe there's someone else who wants to ask a question. The question was from another Italian referee who unfortunately had to leave. He says, how much do you consider essential for a referee or assistant referee to be aware of his own points of strengths and feeling confident with them? And he asks also about the importance of the psychological side of refereeing in building your own career. That's the question. Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I can start.
Yep.
About the strengths, of course, it's very, very important. You are aware of your strengths, because your weak points, someone else will tell you many times, and maybe not so many will tell you about your strengths. So for the weak points, it's absolutely no problem to find out, but the strengths, you have to find them and you have to believe in them. And I think it's the same for players. And normally they try to have one super skill in some things. So why not for the referees? So that can be good for your self-confidence. I think it's a good thing.
Thank you. We've got
Jack, can we hear from Darren as well on this?
I'm sorry, Darren.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just having a bit of IT trouble here. Just trying to fix it.
No, that's okay. Yeah, very similar to Leif, actually. You will know your own strengths, and others will point out the improvements that you can make, I think. But for me, as an assistant referee, offsides are the most important part of making decisions during the match. So I think if you're going to improve something, then I think all assistant referees have to be very good offside judges. Of course, you can help with free kicks and throw-ins and corners and goal kicks, but there's only one of the four of you on the pitch that can give the offside. So for me, I fully focus on those and make sure I'm ready for every offside situation. And if I am in a position to help with a free kick or a penalty, then as Leif said earlier, you need to have courage and you need to have bravery as well. But I would say never sacrifice an offside to look somewhere else on the pitch, because if that ball comes, you need to have the picture in your mind of what the offside looks like, because none of your three colleagues can help you judge whether a player is in an offside position. But if there's a chance that if there's a foul, somebody else might pick that up as well. So for me, yeah, if I'm building my strengths, I would focus a lot on offside.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Jack, I believe Matthew Day has a question. Matthew is the guy that runs Referee Abroad with me, so he would like to ask a question. So.
Yeah, Matthew, please.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, just a question, I guess mainly for Darren, because I remember reading the Howard Webb. He said he used like a hairband or a scrunchie to keep his concentration up. He kept flicking against his skin. What would you give? What advice would you give, especially as an AR, to keep your attention up? I think we've all been there where we just switched off for a few seconds, and that can be fatal.
Yeah, good question. So, certainly, yeah, Howard did use a scrunchie, a hairband, but it was definitely on his wrist. It wasn't needed for his hair, I can assure you. But in terms of concentration, that is really important. We talked about courage earlier, and I think another C, concentration, is so important for assistant referees. I think it's fair enough if you make a mistake, but you shouldn't ever make a mistake through a lack of concentration, really. So what I tend to do is use the car journey, and I've done this over many, many years. I use the car journey, going to the game, to check my mirrors, to check where the cars are, because the cars are the players in my head. So I'm seeing the different cars move up in the lanes on the motorway. So I try not to make a mistake driving if I have a 2-hour drive, for example, or an 1.5-hour drive, because that replicates the match for me. So, and obviously that's keeping me safe as well. So I use that a lot as well. Other techniques I've used with my children many years ago when they were younger, just a silly little game that they used to enjoy playing, but it helped my concentration. You get a tray and you get 20 small items from around the house, and then you cover it with a tea towel and then you take 3 items away, and you have to try and guess which 3 items are taken away. Small things like that help me concentrate to see where everything was, and I might not get the 3 items, but I might say that spoon wasn't there, you've moved that's over there now. Just small things like that. So I think any concentration exercises you can do can be helpful. There was one Premier League assistant referee who used to take a sweet out with him, and 3 sweets in fact, and every 15 minutes he just had another sweet to chew on, and that helped him concentrate. So I don't think there's any one answer, but what I would say is try some things and see if they work for you. But certainly the driving one has helped me a lot, Matthew. It's if I know I haven't made a mistake driving, then I know I can concentrate for 2 hours, and then that makes it easier when I come to the match.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that goes on the back of, if you're distracted at all by something in your personal life, that can really impact you in the game as well. So definitely try and keep everything as calm as possible. If my memory serves you right, I think you were assistant to Mike O'Reilly, and I think Nani from Manchester United committed some violent conduct that you saw and nobody else saw. I think it was at Old Trafford against West Ham, something like that. And you saw it, I remember, and he was the one, you had to call Mike over and then got him sent off, and that was like tribute to your concentration. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think as an assistant referee, you sometimes have to choose the place, looking for a different place on the pitch to where the referee and the fourth official will be looking, because obviously the referee is following the ball. So maybe look somewhere else. Obviously you have an offside to consider, but if the ball's going up into the other half, there's no point all 4 officials looking at the same place, because then you might miss an off the ball incident. So I always try and pick a different place and that's where the homework on the players comes in, really, because sometimes you have players that may commit offences or are more likely to commit offences. So, and also it's important, of course, if those two teams played each other 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, and two players got sent off and they're both playing in this game again, then you need to be aware of those things as well. Not to prejudge, but just to sort of be forewarned in case there's a spillover in the second game.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anything else, Matt, while we've got you here?
Going back to the question before about making mistakes. I watched a documentary a few years ago about on Premier League Wrestling, you were in as well, Darren, about recycling a decision. Could you explain that a bit further?
I can't actually recall recycling decision. Can you tell me a little bit more?
It was like something putting it, if you know you made a mistake, just taking it out of your brain completely, just forgetting it and recycling the decision.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we work with some sports scientists for PGMOL. What they talk to us about is what they call the golden 60 seconds. So that minute after you've made a decision, if it's a good decision, then obviously you can keep that memory there. But if it's a mistake, then you need to get rid of that as quickly as possible, because if not, you're going to be dwelling on that mistake and you're going to make more mistakes. So it's the golden 60 seconds to have some kind of technique or something in your mind to forget that decision. So similar to what I answered earlier, I give myself 3 lives so that if I do make a mistake, then I'm still in credit. So that's how I recycle it. That's how I get it out of my head so that I can then focus on the next decision. Because without doubt, if we dwell on a wrong decision or something that you think may be the wrong decision, then, and of course we have VAR, so we know immediately when it is a wrong decision. So if we've given somebody offside and the VAR says, no, he was onside, give the goal, we do know immediately it's a wrong decision. So you have to park it, you have to get it out of your head and move on. And that's why I give myself 3 lives.
Nice. Maybe Leif as well, maybe the same question to you. How did you get rid of any bad decisions that you felt you made?
No, but I want to highlight the fitness once again, because most mistakes from referees as well as from players is normally in the dying minutes of the match, of the halves, for 2 reasons. First of all, you are too tired, you have running too hard, you're working too hard, and then mistakes will appear. It's the same with the players. That's why so many goals scores in the last minutes on the additional time. And the other reason is doesn't matter if you have done a good match or bad match, maybe the 2-3 minutes before the final whistle, you're already in the dressing room with your head, because you are looking forward for the shower or whatever. You are very happy for a good match, or maybe disappointed for a bad match, and then you switch off, and then it will always appear something bad. So with strong fitness, you can avoid a lot of mistakes. This is my learning point.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. We have now received another question from Dave Duffett. Dave.
To both Darren and Leif, if you had a choice, what law would you change and why?
They change every year. So many changes every year. So I think it's enough, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, please don't change offside again and again and again. Every year. Oh, so demanding, so difficult. So keep offside. That's my message.
Thank you. And the same question to Darren.
Well, it's a difficult question for me to answer, really. But as Leif said, we've had so many law changes recently that it would be nice to have 1 year where there are not so many changes. But for me, I think I would like to do something that we see in rugby, and that would be for only the captain to be able to speak to the referee, because we do see a lot of players surrounding the referee in football. And I understand it's a passionate game, but for me, I think we can learn a lot from rugby. And if it was just the captain to speak to the referee, I think it would reduce the amount of dissent that's seen, and it would lead to a healthier position for all of us, really. So I think that's something that I'd like to see trialled, to just have the captain to be able to speak to the referee, and the other players are not allowed to approach and abuse the referee.
I think referees like to see that.
Jack, I've got one more question, if I may. Considering your experience and that you have worked in so many countries and continents, you know, Darren in the Champions League or the World Cup, Leif also as a coach in Greece, Turkey, some really challenging leagues. My question would be, how challenging is it to get used to a different style of football? And do you think refereeing changes depending on the style of football that is played, or a game is a game and it's 11 against 11 and nothing more?
Yeah, my opinion is, of course, you get used to it. I mean, if you're refereeing in Greece, you get used to Greek style, and vice versa, England, Sweden, Turkey, whatever. So, of course, you have to change your style when you're coming abroad, because UEFA have not always the same as the domestic interpretation. So, for sure, it changed. It have to change. I mean, for my example, football in the Swedish top league and football in the Greek top league is two different sports. So, of course, you have to change. You have to adopt. Absolutely. Otherwise, you will not survive.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. We really only have experience of European football and then some tournaments. But even in Europe, in England, for example, when two players are going for a high bouncing ball and they put their foot up, we usually carry on in this country. But in Europe, as you'll all know, you have to give a free kick if the foot is too high. The players expect it. Everyone expects it. So you do have to adopt. You have to change slightly. But fundamentally, it's the same game. But there are little changes, I agree with Leif, that you have to make when you're refereeing in another country.
Do you think these little changes apply also when you referee with a different referee? Like, I think about when referees come to our tournaments, for example, when you referee like 4 or 5 different games, maybe in a day, and one day you referee with a French referee, the day after with a Swedish, the day after with an English. And do you think, as an assistant referee especially, you should adapt to the referee you work with? Or, you know, I know it's a bit challenging, but you know, that is also interesting. I mean, the importance, I'm thinking about the importance of the pre-match instructions as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think, of course, an assistant, you have to follow the leader, and the leader is the referee, it's not you. I think more or less offside is an offside all over the world. But regarding foul play, then it could be a big difference between one referee to another, how often you have to react, because some referees want to be in charge of more or less all free kicks, and some referees you have to be very much involved. So for sure, this is a easy answer. That's a big difference. It doesn't matter which country, it's from one person to another person. That's my experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my experience too. You have to adapt to each referee. So even on the Premier League, we don't always work in teams. I might work with Mike Dean one week, and then I'll work with another referee another week, and then a different referee a third week. So I think the pre-match instructions are really important, particularly at your tournaments, of course, when there are multiple games and you're working with different referees. I think part of the skill of the assistant referee is to make sure that they adapt to what that referee wants on that particular day. And as Leif said, there'll be times when some referees want you to flag for free kicks and others won't want you to. So I think that's the art of the assistant referee, to be part of the team and to be sort of blended in with the referee's style.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I've got a few questions that now come in, which will...
Jack, how many questions you have left?
About half a dozen.
Oh, wow. Then I would say these are the last ones because we're running out of time. So.
Okay. So first of all, there's got a question from Jan, the Dutch referee. Jan, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's ask your question, please.
Thank you for the invite and letting me ask my question.
No.
First for Darren, how does your fitness schedule look like during a week now? And I was curious how this has changed for you. Do you train different aspects for your fitness? Now you get, with all respect, a little older and you probably can't maybe sprint quicker or faster. I was curious how your fitness looks like these days.
Yeah, it's fair to say that I'm over 50 years old now, so I'm not as fast as I was when I was 30, and that's natural, as you say. We get sent an individual fitness plan every week from our sports scientist. So the plan that I get may not be the same for a 28-year-old on the Premier League. But a lot of my work will be done in 20 or 30 meter bursts, because that replicates what we do on the pitch as well. So I won't do many 10K runs, for example, because that's more akin to a referee and the amount of ground that they cover during a match. So lots of ours will be speed work and repetitive speed work. And of course, we still have fitness tests every year that we have to pass. And if we don't get to the required sprinting ability, we don't meet the required sort of gates in time, then we don't referee any games. So thankfully, I've not had a problem with those yet, and touch wood, I won't next season either. So yeah, it's tough as you get a little bit older, and you do have to adapt slightly. But I've always trained on grass when I can, rather than on roads, because it's easier on the ankles and the knees, and that stood me in good stead. So I think it's changed slightly, but not that much, and I'm still doing lots of quick, short, sharp work. Yeah.
And at the FIFA test, you have to run like 75 meters. How is that for you? Is it a proper test for assistant referees, do you think?
I think that's better than the one we had before, which was 150 meters. So the 75 meter test now 40 times replicates a little bit more how we do it on the line, I guess. Again, shorter bursts, but again, touch wood, I've never failed one of those tests. But there's always a first time, but hopefully I'll be okay for another year or two yet.
Lovely, thank you. And you have a second question, Jan, for Leif.
Yep. You mentioned already that fitness is crucial, also to remain focused during the game. You've been at many tournaments. How did fitness change over the years in your career, and how do you keep fit now as a non-refereeing?
Yeah, I was very lucky, because when I reached FIFA level, it was more or less the same day as Werner Helsen reached it. So he have followed me all my career. So he had a big impact on the way I was training. Then, honestly speaking, in my opinion, it was the training sessions during the long tournaments, Euros and World Cup. It was maybe not tough enough. So I always had some extra training, because this was something I was used to. So I was training very, very hard, and because I liked it, and that was my secret behind my big matches, I think so. The other question is about how I'm fit now. I'm lucky to live in a country when more or less everything is open. So I go to gym 3-4 times a week without any problems. I know most of the countries face something different, but I'm the lucky guy. So we can do it. Stadiums is open, everything is open. Not only indoor, but outdoor, you can do whatever you want. So for me, it's fine. For me, it's important because if I'm a referee coach or a referee instructor, I always like to look like a referee, even if I'm not any longer. So that's very important for me.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I've got a question here from Stuart to Reeve. Stuart, are you there? Or are you...
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for a fantastic evening. This is a question to both Darren and Leif. In order to get to the top of your profession, you must have had to make some personal sacrifices along the way. What would these personal sacrifices be, if you were prepared to say what they were? And looking back now, do you regret having to make those personal sacrifices?
Okay, I can start again. I didn't make any sacrifices because I was lucky in two ways. First of all, I was already on the top when I get married, so she knew exactly what she could expect. So there was no problem at all. She was a supporter for me. I was very happy with that. And for the second, I was running my own company. So the only thing I had to manage is to find another guy who could replace me when I was abroad or away. So that was not the problem for me. So I could leave for training, for everything. So I have been very lucky. So honestly speaking, I didn't sacrifice anything. So I was a lucky guy.
Darren.
Yeah, I was not so lucky. Leif, you're very, very fortunate there. I did have to make some sacrifices. I actually gave up my job. I worked in a bank, and it was just getting impossible to get time away to do Champions League games, because every Champions League game is 3 days holiday, and then tournaments might be 6 weeks, and you might have 10 or even 20 matches in a season abroad, plus tournaments. So it was becoming impossible. So I had to make a choice. Do I give up refereeing or do I give up my job? And at the time, we weren't professional, we weren't full-time. So we had no salary as a match official, we just had match fees. And I spoke to my wife, and she was very supportive, and she wanted me to follow my dream. And so I did give up my job. I resigned from the bank after 22 years of a very secure job because I wanted to follow my dream. And I don't have any regrets. That was probably the best decision I ever made, because it's allowed me to go to World Cups and European Championships and do lots of lovely matches and have some great experiences. But of course, there are family sacrifices as well, and you miss your children's birthdays, for example. And that's difficult. And even in South Africa, 2 days before the World Cup final was my daughter's birthday, and I couldn't be with her to share that. So there are sacrifices that you have to make, but I guess that's the same in any walk of life, really. And unless you're very lucky, then if you want to try and get as far as you can, you do have to come to some crossroads and make those choices. But I'm glad I gave up my job to sort of pursue my dream.
Probably best out of Lloyd's now, Darren.
Well, I think they probably went on to better things without me as well. So
Darren and I both worked in banking. Darren was Lloyd's and I was, Midland Bank, but it's now HSBC. So, yes, and I got out as well. I was made redundant after 24 years, but probably the best thing that happened to me as well. I think what we'll do here, Daniel, you've got a question to ask, I believe. I've got one. I can.
No, I'm done with my questions.
You are.
Just finish with yours because we're running out of time. So,
yeah, what I'm going to do it's now 12 minutes to, I've got 2 questions I'll ask, and then I'll go to Aaron Farmer, who's got a question, and he'll then do a thank you. So I'm sorry for anybody else that who has sent questions in, but we are running out of time. So Glenn Sandel, if you're still there, Glenn.
Yep, thanks, Jack. Thanks, gents. Appreciate your time tonight. So this is a question for both gents. On your foreign trips over the years, have you received any special mementos and gifts? And nowadays, are you allowed to accept these gifts and mementos that clubs used to give out?
Leif, can we start with you on that one, please?
Yes, of course, it have changed a lot. Many years ago, you can receive everything from different clubs. It was quite normal. Nowadays, it's very, very strict. Not even a pin, more or less. But of course, you receive some strange things. If I can highlight one, I will not name the club, but it was a big Serrano ham. I think it was something about 10 kilos. So I need an extra suitcase to bring that home. So I think that's very unusual. I think I throw it away later on. But okay, 10 kilos Serrano. That was a very strange thing I received.
Thank you, Leif. And Darren.
Yeah, it did used to be nice that you'd get a scarf, or very often both clubs would give you a shirt, one of the players' shirts, which was very nice. But as Leif said, it's probably changed a little bit now. But yeah, so I've got lots of nice shirts from all over the world, including World Cup games where the teams that we've done have given us shirts, which are obviously very special mementos. And then match balls as well. We're lucky enough, I'm lucky enough to have a Champions League final match ball, and one of the World Cup games that we did have the ball from that game as well. So those are a special sort of treasured mementos as well, Glenn.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Glenn. Okay, before we go to Aaron, got a question from Stuart Nunn. He's asked me to read it out because he's got a problem with his microphone, either that or he's lost his voice. Regardless of country boundaries and era, what would be the dream game to officiate on? Leif, I'll go to you first.
Okay. I said Brazil before, so maybe some cup final or something, other big matches in Brazil. This would be a dream for me. So now when I'm too old, so maybe to be an observer in a match like that. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Darren.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, Boca Juniors River Plate would be a special atmosphere, I think. So I would like to do that. And then I was lucky enough to officiate Real Madrid and Barcelona many, many times, but not together. So I think El Clasico would be the other game that I would love to have officiated. But as I said, I've been very lucky to do both teams on many occasions, but never El Clasico. So again, that would have been a special game to do. But I was lucky enough to take my son to the Nou Camp 2 years ago, and he got to watch some of the best players in the world, and it was just fantastic, just as an observer, just as a spectator watching the game. So that's probably the closest I'll get, but still special memories.
Thank you very much, Darren. I'd like to go finally to Aaron Farmer. He has a question, and then he'll do a thank you. So Aaron, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Jack. Question for both of you. What do you consider to be the most important part of your pre-match preparation in the days leading up to the game? So I'm not talking about game day, I'm talking about all the preparation that you do in advance, and I know you do loads.
Oh, well, I'll go first then. Yes, I do. I do lots of preparation, Aaron. I think it's really important, as Leif said earlier, with Kalina doing that 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's something I've always done as well. So preparation on the teams, the probable lineup of each team as well. That helps me set in my mind how they're likely to play. I also look into things like, does the defence play a high line? Do they move out quickly when they clear the ball? Because I think if you're prepared with all this information, it doesn't come as a surprise. So lots of information, and also researching how those two teams have played each other in past seasons as well, maybe earlier in the season, in case, as I said, there's something untoward or maybe a couple of red cards or a flare-up of some description. So I try and watch as much as I can. As well as that, I look at corner kicks as well and how the teams set up for free kicks. So for an assistant referee, it's really important to know whether at a free kick, the defence is suddenly going to come rushing out. I need to know if they have a tendency or propensity to do that, so I can be prepared. So as soon as the appointment comes through on a Monday or a Tuesday, I spend most of the week looking at those two teams so I can best be prepared for the weekend.
Thank you. And Leif, do you have any comments on that at all?
I have one comment, because I fully agree with Darren. Absolutely. I also love all kind of preparations, so more or less exactly the same. But one way to show how different it is the Colina style with knowing everything in advance. My referee Frisk, if we were sitting in the dressing room before the match, and I was looking at the match program and checking the team list, and he was furious. He didn't want to know any player on the field of play. He didn't want to know absolutely nothing. Just go into the field of play with a blank piece of paper, blank sheet in front of you, and had no expectation at all. So he was absolutely the biggest opposite you can believe.
Fantastic.
Leif, there was a video by Peter Freuchfeld who said exactly the same in that famous film. So he must be a very Swedish thing, I guess.
Yeah, Peter were a little bit of the same, not exactly, but similar. Absolutely correct.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Aaron. Can I just ask you then to wind the meeting up with a thank you to our guests?
Yeah, of course. Just in my role as chairman of Colchester, thanks Jack for the invitation, and to Danielle and Jack for putting tonight on. I think these events show what we can still do to develop our own refereeing in the scenario that we're in at the moment, but equally make sure we're in the best position when, firstly, grassroots football resumes in the UK on the 29th of March. So all of you lucky referees that are able to go out of there and do what we love to do, I think tonight will have helped massively. So Darren, Leif, thank you for your insight into professional refereeing and the art of assistant refereeing. I know you're an inspiration to many people, and a number of those are on this call tonight. So thanks for giving up your time, and all the best with your upcoming games. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Aaron. Our pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Jack, can I just take the opportunity for a one-line question, just very quick, and then we'll close.
Yeah, of course.
It's just best stadium you've refereed in.
Leif.
Santiago Bernabeu.
Okay. Same for me. The Bernabeu and the Nou Camp for me are the best two stadiums that I've officiated in as well.
Fantastic.
So I just want to say thank you myself, and I'll leave it to you, Jack. So
yeah,
thanks a lot, Darren and Leif for tonight. There were a couple of surprise questions, but they just came as you spoke, because you kind of awoken a lot of memories and a lot of ideas about refereeing that we had to ask them. So apologies for the surprise, but it was amazing. And again, thanks for your time. And once COVID is over, hopefully we will be able to meet in person somewhere in the world. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
I mean, first, I'd like to thank Daniel for using his contacts so we get so many people on the call. For everyone who's come along and asked, in my opinion, some excellent questions, and also to Darren and Leif, for giving your time up, and also for answering the questions honestly. It's been a revelation. I've learned things here I've been observing now for 13 years, and even one or two things that you two guys have said tonight has got it thinking here as well. And I'm sure Dave Duffett certainly would think along the same lines. Again, thank you so much, guys. It's been a tremendous evening. And as I've said before, this meeting's been recorded, and that will go up on the Norfolk Referees Association's YouTube by the weekend. So thank you so much. Good night, everybody, and have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Excellent evening.
Bye, Sandy. Thank you, Sandy.
Excellent. Well done.
Thanks, Jack.